Hello everyone, I want to welcome you to the channel's new fanfic. Remember that this fanfic is my creation and will complement the Naruto Uchiha fanfic. Don't worry, I have more time lately to dedicate to writing, so neither of us will be late. Without further ado, I ask that you please leave your like and comment. Here's Chapter 1.
Chapter 1 Prologue Senju Clan Compound. Torches set on the walls cast a flickering light on the bedroom, illuminating the bed on which the Shodai Hokage lay. The glow emanated by the flames mimicked that of Hashirama's life and weakened as the night went on. In his last days, a sudden illness had caught him. All his life, the first had relied on his cell's ability to divide beyond the Hayflick limit in order to regenerate quickly. His healing factor came at a cost, however. His lifespan was shortened, though in his youth, a time of constant strife and violence, this seemed trivial. Besides, he had already done all that he had set out to do, and a man as great as he did not see the necessity in living longer, for he was assured that his will of fire had been passed on safely, entrusted to the capable hands of his brother. "It's almost time, Mito," said Hashirama. The red-haired woman sitting next to his bed placed a finger on his lips, silencing him. Her eyebrows were knitted with worry. "You should rest, Hashirama," replied the Uzumaki. In spite of what she said, as a skilled censor, she could feel her husband's life force slipping away, and no amount of resting would prevent death. He was right. Cliché as it was, memories of his life flashed by his eyes. If there was anything memorable, it was surely his friendship and rivalry with Uchiha Madara. There was no relationship quite like theirs. They were the closest of friends in their youth, and in adulthood the fiercest of enemies. It was contradictory, yet it had still happened, almost as if it was predestined. A nostalgic smirk formed on his lips. "Damn you, Madara. Of all the things I'm thinking about before I leave this place." The last rays of light reached his eyes, and the torches on the walls went out, flames extinguished like that of Hashirama's life. Mito placed a hand on his head and closed his eyelids as a mark of respect for the deceased. A grand funeral would be held. Yamatsu Hirasaka, the dead Hokage, opened his eyes, realizing that he was on the road to Yomi. The region was cloaked in darkness, and it was every bit as miserable as he had imagined it to be. Time to atone for my sins. Up ahead was the first court of hell, ruled by King Shinko. The complex was a structure which displayed the hallmarks of traditional Japanese architecture, with thick wooden pillars and a giant tiled roof. The main doorway was huge as well, opening up into a large hall filled with demonic attendants and a titanic man caparisoned with the regalia of a death god. "Senju Hashirama," the king bellowed. The Hokage knelt down to the Shinigami on the marble floor, something that was distinctly different from the rest of the otherwise purest design of the court. "Hi, Shinko-sama," the king's brows furrowed. "You are a special case. You were the transmigrant of Otsutsuki Asura, a good man with an unresolved feud with his brother, Indra. Indra was reincarnated into Uchiha Madara, who still lives at this very moment with both the chakra of Indra and Asura, as he had managed to obtain your DNA. This will grant him the Rinnegan, but he won't last long either." "I see," Hashirama replied evenly. Years of being the leader of Konohagakure allowed him to contain the shock of learning this, as with every piece of bad news he had received during his tenure. On hindsight, Madara's dojutsu, visual prowess, had been extremely powerful, and the Senju was not foolish enough to think that it was beyond his capabilities to survive their death match using one of the many kinjutsu, forbidden techniques, in his clan's arsenal. He had heard of one called the Izanagi. It was one of those jutsu you never wanted even your weakest foe to possess, for it made them nigh invincible. "You shall now be checked for your sins and good deeds. Step before the mirror of retribution," King Shinko ordered, snapping him out of his thoughts. The soul of the Shodai went in front of the mirror, which began reflecting his past life. As a shinobi he had killed and injured many, but was a great and honorable man as well as a venerable leader. "Well then, your good deeds outweigh your crimes of killing. However, you won't cross the silver bridge to Tengaku, paradise. You have unfinished business and will be sent to King Tenrin of the 10th Court for reincarnation. Go," the Shinigami commanded. Hashirama, or Asura, stepped away from the mirror with understanding. He now knew his purpose in life and was determined to resolve this feud with Indra in the next life, whoever he may be. 10th Court of Hell. King Tenrin received Hashirama at his court. The king said, "I shall now send you off for reincarnation." But before that, another deity appeared before him. It was Granny Men. She passed him a cup of tea which he gladly consumed. "This tea will take effect immediately after transmigration. You will forget everything in your past life." The king informed him calmly, "Do not be afraid. Asura's chakra shall cling to your next life, and if it so happens, may awaken. And now follow me." The king strolled to a wooden wheel which had 6 sectors. Each was intricately carved with a particular design. One was of a deva or godlike being, the next was of an Asura, a powerful armored demon, the third was of a human, the fourth depicted an animal, while the fifth showed a preta or hungry ghost, and the last and the least, being the lowest of all realms of existence, showed Naraka, the path of hell. King Tenrin placed his hand atop the wheel of destiny and spun it, but before it even stopped, Hashirama already knew what he was fated to be in his next life. For there was only one path which allowed for such pleasure and suffering, yet rationality in spite of it all. The wooden wheel slowed down, then ground to a halt at the Ninjendo human path sector. As a shimmer of light enveloped him, the Shinigami smiled. Jareni, Chapter 2, Humble Beginnings. Previously, and thus began the life of Uzumaki Naruto, in the small village of Kanahagakure no Sato. After the Kyuubi attack, the Sandaime Hokage was reinstated as there was currently no suitable candidate. Hiruzen took it upon himself to take care of his successor's son, but his duties limited him from doing so extensively. As such, Naruto was sent to the orphanage with his parentage kept secret. It was done in order to keep his father's enemies at bay. However, this had an adverse effect, as the village's citizens held immense hatred for the Kyuubi because it claimed the lives of many loved ones. Since they couldn't kill it, they did the next best thing and ostracized its Jinchuriki. By the age of 6, he was kicked out of the orphanage and was given a small apartment by the Sandaime, who visited him regularly to ensure things were running smoothly. This meant that he had to survive on his own, with only the clothes on his back provided by the Hokage and food that he could buy. Anything else was unaffordable, for he had very little allowance. Whenever the villagers saw him on the streets, they spat at the clueless toddler. Venomous words filled their mouths, and even merchants and vendors refused to sell things to him. Those that did sold it at exorbitant prices, and they sneered when the young child realized he could not afford any of it. They then kicked him out of the store, stating that demons were not welcome. It got so serious that the Sandaime took notice and passed a law to prevent the people from calling him a demon on pain of death. The aim was also for Naruto to be kept unaware of his tenant, lest he was really led to think that he was a demon. Hiruzen even sent a personal team of ANBU to watch the boy 24/7 in case the villagers gained any thoughts of injuring the innocent child. Alas, since they could not openly attack him verbally or physically, the villagers then did the worst thing imaginable. They deprived him of friends by telling their children to stay from that child, effectively isolating him. The poor, lonely boy was only accepted by one store, Ichiraku Ramen. It was a simple ramen stand run by a 50-year-old man named Tuchi and his young daughter, Ayam. Whenever the rains were too heavy or the nights too cold, Naruto sought refuge at the stand, the only establishment that would not turn him away. There, he was treated to a nice, warm bowl of ramen, while the friendly waitress talked to Naruto as if he was her younger brother. This led to Naruto calling her Ayam Nichin. Not that she minded, as she knew that the boy was desperate for familial love. He had no family or friends, and that was really something that she found sad. And so, they continued to provide such a service for all the years in Naruto's childhood, until he was old enough to be independent. On the same year he was kicked out of the orphanage, Naruto began to train to enter the academy. At first it was just running around the village, but as time passed, it evolved to push-ups, sit-ups, handstands, and shuriken throwing. Every day, the amount of repetitions increased till he was dead beat. But even as he collapsed on the concrete, he ended every day with a smile, knowing that he had spent it well improving. After countless applications and bugging his grandfather figure, the Sandaime, he was finally allowed to enter the academy at age 9, a year earlier than his peers entered the school. Even then, his teachers were ruthless, withholding teaching materials and even kicking him out of the class for the slightest reason. The boy never knew why all this while and ended up failing the 2-year course. Where he was supposed to graduate at 11, He failed the final exam and had to retake the year's course. By then, his peers of the same age just finished their first year, so he had to take his final year together with them. Fortunately, he had a nice teacher this year. The instructor's name was Umino Irika. Although he saw Naruto as a nuisance in class due to all the pranks he pulled and disruptions he caused, the Chunin understood that Naruto was seeking attention because of his sad childhood. Because of that, he decided to treat him better than the other teachers did and taught him properly, only telling him off lightly when absolutely needed. He eventually became a surrogate brother to the young blonde, even occasionally treating him to ramen after class. Irika strongly instilled the will of fire in him, influencing Naruto to want to be Hokage. Oh, what an irony, for in his past life, he was the one who created the will of fire that would be passed down for many generations to come. At the end of it, Naruto was still a happy boy. However, he was treated as the dead last in class because he could not graduate the previous year. The reason was simply this. Naruto could not perform the Bunshin no Jutsu, clone jutsu, one of the 3 basic academy techniques that every student was required to execute in order to graduate as a genin. For that, he was deemed as a failure. But no one realized that it was because he had too much chakra to control properly, a result of what he was holding in his body. Naruto wasn't very concerned about that and instead chose to focus on the rest of the shinobi arts such as taijutsu, body technique, and fuinjutsu, the 2 arts which didn't require much chakra control. Many of his classmates thought him to be a loser, except a select few: Aburame Shino, Nara Shikamaru, Akimichi Choji, and Hyuga Hinata. They were all the children of their clan's clan heads, as were most of the others in the class. Uchiha Sayuri was top of the class. She was the daughter of the Konoha Military Police Force Chief, Uchiha Fugaku. However, due to an incident where her brother, Uchiha Itachi, massacred the entire clan, Sayuri was an emo princess, hellbent on revenge to restore her clan's reputation. Naruto disliked her because she always looked down on him, calling him dobe, dead last, or Yujiratanki loser. Haruno Sakura was born from a civilian family. She had no skills whatsoever, except for being book smart. She was Sayuri's fangirl and hated Naruto with a passion, believing him to be useless as well. Naruto disliked Sakura, or any of Sayuri's fangirls for that matter. Inuzuka Kiba was the son of the Inuzuka clan head, Inuzuka Tsum. He was loud and brash as well as impulsive. However, he had skills when it came to taijutsu, as well as being proficient in his clan's ninjutsu, ninja technique. His companion was Akamaru, a ninken, ninja dog, which was what everybody in his clan possessed. Apart from some minor arguments, Naruto got along well with the Inuzuka and he considered the blonde to be a rival. Yes, he still looked down on him, but it was all in the name of rivalry. Aburame Shino, son of Aburame Shibi, the Aburame clan head, was a stoic individual. He was quite capable in taijutsu and specialized mainly in clan's techniques, which involved using insects in their bodies. Don't ask why or how. Shino was intelligent and calm, something which Naruto respected, but he found him too quiet to outright befriend him. Hyuga Hinata, daughter of the Hyuga clan head, Hyuga Hayashi, was a very shy and meek kunoichi. As a result, she had low self-confidence in her abilities and frequently stuttered in her speech. This worsened when Naruto was in the vicinity as she held affections for the blonde boy. Naruto, being dense to the opposite sex's feelings, treated her as a good friend. Her speciality was her clan's Jukin, gentle fist, a taijutsu style which utilized the Hyuga's Kekkei Genkai, bloodline limit, the Byakugan which allowed the user to see through most things as well as a person's chakra pathway system. Nara Shikamaru, son of Nara Shikaku, the Nara clan head, was a super intelligent but lazy person. He called everything a drag, choosing to sleep in class. However, when it came down to it, his brains allowed him to easily outmaneuver opponents through strategies that predicted many possibilities 100 steps ahead. As such, he aced written tests with ease and easily beat down opponents, albeit only those whom he were forced to fight. His skills lay mainly in his clan's ninjutsu, which allowed him to manipulate shadows. Naruto got along with him just fine. Akimichi Choji, son of the Akimichi clan head Choza, was round. He adored eating food, and his clan's techniques involved converting calories into chakra, which granted them super strength and expansion. Naruto found his eating habits slightly repulsive, but as he was nice to him, he returned the feelings. Yamanaka Ino, daughter of Inoichi, the Yamanaka clan head, was another of Sayuri's fangirls. She was poor at taijutsu and only had one jutsu in her arsenal, her clan's Shintenshin no Jutsu, mind-body switch jutsu. She disliked Naruto as well, finding him annoying because of the disruptions in class. As with Sakura, Naruto could not get along with Ino. Regardless, it was soon time to graduate as the year passed by quickly. Once again, the genin exams were held, and the passing criteria was the ability to perform the Academy 3, the Henge no Jutsu, Transformation Jutsu, Kawarimi no Jutsu, Substitution Jutsu, and the hated Bunshin no Jutsu. It was a bright afternoon, and most of the Academy students were well prepared for the test. Uzumaki Naruto, an instructor called. The blonde stood up glumly and entered the examination room, where two other chunins, Irika and Mizuki, were invigilators. Irika smiled at him. "Naruto, show us the henge," requested the kind sensei. The Uzumaki nodded and formed the ram hand seal. Picturing his idol, he called, "Henge." Chakra flowed around him and smoke filled the air. When it cleared, it revealed the Yondaime Hokage. "Good job," Irika praised, noting it down. Now that he thought about it, Naruto did have an uncanny resemblance to the fourth. Mizuki ordered, "Execute the Kawarimi no Jutsu." Naruto, without hand seals, swapped with a chair nearby. "Impressive," Mizuki stated, giving him the point as well as extra credit for doing it without hand seals. Irika gave the biggest challenge. "Perform the Bunshin no Jutsu, Naruto." The blonde gained a determined look on his face, for he was not going to fail this time. "Bunshin no Jutsu," Naruto shouted. In a plume of smoke, a clone appeared beside him, specifically on the floor and sickly pale. Irika shook his head, sighing sadly. "I'm sorry, Naruto. You have failed this jutsu and will have to retain again." Mizuki reasoned. "Let's not do that, Irika-san. He did try his best, and even made a clone, albeit non-functioning. Look, I can't pass him if he can't complete a basic technique such as the clone jutsu. Others made perfect, functioning clones, so why should we have double standards? I'm afraid he has failed again and will need to be sent back to the academy. Naruto, you are dismissed." Naruto's shoulders slumped sadly as he walked out of the room, downtrodden. He sat on the swing in front of the academy, feeling like shit. This was a stark contrast to the huge crowd of genins in front of the academy entrance, celebrating their graduation. Proud parents congratulating their children. Something Naruto envied a lot, for he did not even have family. Behind him, he sensed the presence of Mizuki. "Naruto, don't be so sad. I have another way for you to pass. Are you interested?" He perked up immediately. "What is it, sensei?" "Well, it's a secret assignment for genins, so you must not let anyone else know. Okay?" Naruto nodded enthusiastically. Mizuki whispered, "You must steal the forbidden Fuin no Sho, scroll of sealing, from the Hokage residence and meet me at the northern forests by 7 this evening." "All right." Naruto agreed and went back home to rest while preparing for the mini-task. Northern forests, 6:50 p.m. Naruto broke into the forest line and panted hard. He had successfully stolen the scroll but was pretty sure multiple shinobi were on his tail. Perhaps that was part of the test? Realizing he still had around 10 minutes, Naruto decided to open the scroll and learn some moves. The first he came across was a technique invented by the Nidame Hokage. It was the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Jutsu, a B-rank technique which creates corporeal clones with a single hand seal. The user's chakra is evenly distributed among every clone, giving each clone an equal fraction of the user's overall power. The clones are capable of performing techniques on their own and can even bleed, but will usually disperse after hit by a strong enough force. The clones can also disperse on their own or be dispelled by the user of the technique. A characteristic that is unique to the Shadow Clone Jutsu is that any experience the clones gain during their existence is transferred to the user once they are dispersed. Similarly, because they are clones of the original, any chakra that the clone possesses will return to the original after being dispelled. This is an interesting technique, Looks pretty easy too, thought Naruto happily. He practiced forming the hand seal and memorized the jutsu. He was about to move on to the next jutsu when he sensed a presence 30 meters away. It's Iruka-sensei, Naruto thought, unknowingly recognizing his chakra signature. He sealed the scroll and waited patiently. 10 seconds, Iruka appeared. It's over, Naruto. Return the scroll, the Chunin stated. You got me, Iruka-sensei? Naruto replied cheerfully. Do I pass now? What do you mean? What makes you think you will pass once you steal the scroll? Iruka demanded, getting slightly annoyed. Well, Mizuki-sensei said so. Oh, he's here, Naruto informed, detecting the other Chunin's presence. There he was, standing on the branch of a tree with 2 Fuma shurikens strapped to his back. Naruto, give me the scroll, Mizuki ordered. It was at this moment that Iruka realized Mizuki had used Naruto to get the scroll of sealing. Naruto, don't listen to Mizuki. He's a traitor that just used you to get the scroll, Iruka warned. Naruto was conflicted, his gaze switching between both instructors. Iruka is just lying to you because he doesn't want you to have the scroll, Mizuki stated. In fact, they've been lying to you all this while, since that decree 9 years ago. Everyone knows except you. Iruka's eyes widened, knowing that he was about to reveal Naruto's Jinchuriki status. Mizuki, stop, the Chunin sneered. The decree is that no one can tell you that the 9-tailed demon fox is inside you. The fox spirit that destroyed this village 12 years ago has taken over you. Naruto, you are the Kyuubi no Yoko. With such a revelation, understanding dawned on the young boy. Now he knew why they stared at him as they did. His body was frozen, filled with so much hatred. He could feel something within surfacing. Mizuki smirked and grabbed multiple projectiles, launching them at Naruto. Die, demon! Iruka instantly pushed the blonde away, taking the kunais and shurikens for his favorite student. He was pinned against the wall, bleeding badly. Naruto watched on in helpless horror. Iruka-sensei dash. Naruto, just run, Iruka urged. There was no way he was going to let the scroll fall into traitorous hands. Mizuki, however, picked 1 Fuma shuriken off his back and threw it at Naruto, sure that there was no longer anybody to save him. The last thing the Uzumaki saw was a bright flash of light. Mindscape time freeze. When Naruto opened his eyes, he realized that he was in a basement of some sort, and guessing from the pipes, it was an industrial plant. The floor was flooded with water up to ankle length. There were many doorways. However, Naruto heard a low growling sound coming from one of them. It was the sound of an animal, in suffering but refusing to give way for its pride. Naruto traced the source and came to a huge room where in the center, a giant gate stood. On the center of the gate, a parchment of paper had the kanji for seal. When he neared it, the sound of growling transformed into a malicious laughter. It became clear then that it wasn't a gate. Rather, it was a cage. In the darkness behind the thick, vertical bars of the cage, a single red eye opened. The creature within stepped forward, revealing itself to be a giant orange fox. Naruto stepped back in slight fear, for he recognized the beast. You're the Kyuubi, Naruto said. The fox replied, Indeed, I am. And you're Uzumaki Naruto, the flesh bag who should be dead. My jailer finally comes to visit after 12 years. Ha, now, came a third voice, almost chiding. Kurama-kun, do you have to be so rude? My patience wears thin, Asura-san. The now named Kurama replied. Say what you have to say. A young man from within the cage stepped through the bars and shook Naruto's hands. Hello, child. I take it you won't know me for I existed at the era when chakra was discovered. In fact, the first human born with chakra was my father. Naruto racked his brains on the legends of chakra, before finally saying, Your father was the Rakuto Sennin, sage of 6 paths? The man nodded. That's right. My name is Otsutsuki Asura, and I am your ancestor from long ago. And you, Uzumaki Naruto, are my transmigrant. Trans what? Naruto attempted to repeat. Transmigrant. Basically, it means that when my mortal body died, my chakra was reborn in a new vessel. That would be you, Naruto-kun. But you are not my first transmigrant. In your past life, you were the Shodai Hokage, Senju Hashirama. So, does that mean that I'm you and you're me? Naruto asked, slightly confused. The young man chuckled. I guess you could say that. Alright, down to business, so listen carefully. My brother, Indra, also reincarnated. He was Uchiha Madara before his current life. Kurama growled in anger at the accursed name, that bastard who used the Sharingan to control him. Who is he now? Naruto asked. Your classmate, Uchiha Sayuri, Asura responded. The main point is that my brother and I have a huge, unresolved feud. He believed that power was the way to peace, while I believed that love was the way to peace. This conflict of beliefs would have been trivial had my father not decided to let me be his successor. My inheritance was my father's body, and so I passed that down to my descendants. The Senju, renowned for their amazing healing factor, as well as the Uzumaki, who were known for their extremely potent chakra and life force, and thus longevity. My ideals were passed down as the present-day Hai no Ishi, will of fire. My brother, on the other hand, inherited my father's eyes. Though not exactly the Rinnegan, his eyes were still powerful and mutated over the generations to what is now known as the Sharingan, wielded by his descendants, the Uchiha. His beliefs were passed down as the Uchiha clan's Nikushimi no Noroi, curse of hatred, which fed on a clansman's hatred to awaken the power of their eyes. Asura explained. So you see, you must vanquish this curse from the Uchiha clan and bring this feud to an end once and for all. I believe with your will of fire, you can overcome Sayuri's curse and make peace between the two of us, Asura stated. But how? I'm so weak, Naruto asked. Asura's facial features became sterner than before. Listen, Naruto-kun, you are not weak. You are merely like me, a late bloomer. You have waited patiently long enough and trained hard enough. So now you will reap your rewards. You will awaken my inheritance, the Rakuto Sennin's body. Your chakra will be more powerful than before and will be extremely large in volume. This will come to fruition when you reach the prime of your life around 25. For now, your chakra pool is 4 times the size of a standard jonin. Next, your speed and strength will increase tenfold. The effect is instantaneous, not requiring you to wait. The last and greatest gift of this inheritance is that your body is now that of a Sennin, sage. So you are able to handle natural energy without turning to stone, Asura said. As such, you'll be able to use Rakuto Sennin Moto, 6-path sage mode, a state in which your other gifts will be amplified tremendously. You'll be able to fly, manipulate all 5 elements as well as on Mayatan, Yin-Yang style, and most important of all, use the Gudo Dama, truth-seeking ball, an indispensable tool made from 7 elements. Every 3 years, you can manifest 1 Gudo Dama. Since you are 12, that means you have 4 orbs to control. They nullify ninjutsu by using on Mayatan, can be shaped into a variety of forms, and the many natures comprising them can be combined to produce various effects. As the chakra comprising them is highly durable, the balls can serve as an effective defense, only taking damage from extremely powerful techniques. They can also heal you in dire times, Asura explained. Naruto scratched his head, not entirely understanding the concepts, but he got the main idea. Remember, you can only use all these in 6-path sage mode. Now go, you have a sensei to save and a traitor to defeat, Asura commanded, a smile on his face. Northern forests, time continue. A bright light enveloped Naruto as the huge Fuma Shuriken shot towards him. Naruto! Irika cried out. Suddenly, a black shield-like thing wrapped around the Uzumaki's front. The Fuma Shuriken slammed into it and snapped into half. Mizuki's eyes widened. What the hell was that? He thought. Naruto was now glowing as he was wearing a yellow cloak of some sort, which appeared to be made of chakra. Naruto growled, retracting the black shield into 4 smaller black orbs, each with a purplish glow. If you ever touch my sensei again, I'll kill you. Mizuki had the nerve to smirk despite what had just transpired. You'll never defeat me, demon. I can get you in one punch. The 4 black orbs revolving around Naruto flew towards Mizuki and surrounded him. They then expanded rapidly, causing a bright white light to flash out as they exploded. When the smoke cleared, an unconscious Mizuki was lying on the floor. The orbs returned to their positions behind their master. Irika-sensei, he cried, turning around. The The man was quite badly injured, with multiple weapons sticking out of his body. His chakra cloak dissipated as he attended to his sensei. "Thanks, Naruto. This time you pass," Irika commended. "Eh? I pass?" Naruto asked in surprise. "Yes, after I get myself patched up. How about a bowl of ramen? After all, you did save our lives," Irika suggested. "Make that 10 bowls, Irika-sensei." Naruto agreed happily. "I foresee a hole in my pocket," Irika joked, before getting up slowly and calling for help. Soon, an ANBU team arrived and took Mizuki into custody while seeing to Irika's wounds. Naruto, on the other hand, was asked to report to the Hokage's office. Hokage's office. The aged Hokage looked up when he noticed that Naruto had entered his office. "Ah, Naruto-kun. I have called you here for you to explain that bright light and chakra cloak, I believe is the appropriate term," Hiruzen requested. "Hokage-jiji, I would explain, but I need all your ANBU to leave the room, for it is a matter of extreme secrecy," Naruto replied. The Hokage was slightly shocked that Naruto had detected his agent's presence within the room. So he was a Kangshi type, sensor type, and appeared to be quite skilled at it too. He called his ANBU off and activated the privacy seals. "So," the Sandaime Hokage said, "what is it that requires such secrecy?" Naruto explained everything he learnt from Asura. "Well, that is baffling yet interesting news, Naruto-kun. Please go home and rest well. Tomorrow you'll have your team assignments," advised Hiruzen. "And by the way, here's your headband. Congratulations." Naruto took it and dismissed himself from the office. "If that is really so, I should put Sayuri together with Naruto on a team," the Sarutobi thought. "And who better to lead it than Hatake Kakashi? He could teach skills of the Sharingan and would surely not want to miss out on training his sensei's son. I just hope he won't fail them." Naruto's apartment. The blonde stepped into his tiny home, greeted by the colorful language vandalized all over his front walls. He sat on his bed, just wondering what the hell had just happened. So it seemed he had unlocked some crazy-ass powers that he could barely comprehend. "You still don't understand?" came Asura's voice, startling him. "Let me give you a theory lesson on the elements, specifically on Maiton, to help you understand the mechanics of the Gododama," Asura introduced, entering Professor mode. On Maiton is a combination of Inton, Yin style, and Yoton, Yang style. Simple, Naruto nodded. Inton chakra gives form to objects. It is in everything that requires creation, such as Genjutsu or the Nara clan's shadow techniques. All of them apply Inton chakra to create stuff out of nothing. Understood. Again, Naruto nodded. Yoton chakra gives life to inanimate objects. It is in every living thing and is used in Iryo ninjutsu, medical ninja techniques, to speed up the regeneration of cells and by extension the healing process. Okay, Naruto nodded. This step-by-step style was interesting and made it easier to understand Asura's teaching. When the two are combined into Onmyoton, it is possible to create anything. With Inton chakra creating form and Yoton chakra breathing life into it, the possibilities are endless. That's why my father had a jutsu, the Onmyoton, Bunbutsu Sozo, Yin-Yang style, creation of all things, which allowed the user to basically construct anything. Got it, got it. Now this is where the Gododama comes in. By combining the shape and life of the orbs with the 5 elements simultaneously, it creates an extremely durable black orb with a life of its own. By manipulating the Inton chakra in the spheres, you can change their shape. Tweaking the Yoton chakra gives it life and allows you to control it telekinetically, as well as gives them the ability to heal you. Understand. Naruto nodded for the final time. Asura sighed in relief. Thank Kami. Now you understand. The Uzumaki sweat dropped. Was he really that bad? Well, he was a kinesthetic learner, so he learned by practicing it. And that was exactly what he did for the rest of the evening. The next day, Naruto ran to the academy with his newfound speed and made it in time. The blonde looked around and went to the only spot available, next to Sayuri. "Dobe," she said. "What are you doing here?" "TCH. I graduated, team," Naruto replied, squatting on the table while glaring at her. "Why? Is there a problem? Unbelievable. There's no way you could have passed, Uzuritanki," Sayuri remarked, staring at him defiantly. From behind, Kiba sneakily pushed Naruto forward. The blonde fell forward, his lips smashing into Sayuri's. Naruto was disgusted, yet her lips felt so soft. The feeling was inexplicable. Sayuri felt the same, for Naruto's lips were gentle and just so. Ugh, she hated to admit it, but it felt nice. Both faces turned scarlet with embarrassment, before they recovered and split up. Naruto wiped his lips thoroughly, feeling slightly sick. The Uzumaki glared at the snickering Kiba. Within 3 seconds, he appeared behind the Inuzuka and had him in a hammerlock. "Mutt boy, you'll pay for this," Naruto threatened. Kiba winced in pain, but still managed to reply snarkily, "Okay, I'm sorry, but you gotta admit, you two looked like you were enjoying it." The last Uchiha glowered at the Inuzuka. If looks could kill, and they could in her clan, Kiba would have had his ass incinerated in the flames of hell. "Okay, stop talking," declared Irika as he entered the room. Naruto released the boy onto the floor and returned to his seat. After the customary greeting, Irika announced, "After 4 years, you have finally completed the academy course. Good job." Applause resounded in the classroom. "Well, I'm sad to see you all go, but some of y'all will still be seeing each other, and on a regular basis, in fact. I shall now announce the 3 teams. Starting from Team 7, since the other 6 are still in circulation, we have Uchiha Sayuri, Haruno Sakura Sayuri face-bombed while Sakura cheered, and Uzumaki Naruto, all 3 members' faces planted on their tables. Your sensei is Hatake Kakashi. Team 8, Inuzuka Kiba, Aburame Shino, and Hyuga Hinata. Your sensei is Yuhi Kurinai. Kiba gave a loud yahoo, while Akamaru barked in approval. Team 9 is still in circulation, so Team 10, Nara Shikamaru, Akimichi Choji, and Yamanaka Ino. Your sensei is Sarutobi Asuma. Shikamaru groaned at having to team up with Ino, who was, quote, a troublesome blonde, unquote. Irika smiled. Well, that concludes your team assignment. Please wait here for your senseis to pick you up. Good luck on your shinobi career. Until we meet again. Chapter 3, Stealing Bells. Previously, good luck on your shinobi career. Until we meet again. After Irika left the room, 2 jonin entered it, introducing themselves as Kurinai and Asuma. Taking their respective teams, they left. Naruto was left with the 2 irate girls in the classroom, which got worse as their sensei was late. By the first hour, Sayuri was already thinking of roasting this Kakashi with one of her fireballs. Sakura looked ready to scream at somebody, and it was going to be Naruto if Kakashi wasn't in sight in the next 3 minutes. Oi! Where is Kakashi-sensei? Sakura yelled out in frustration. Naruto shrugged. How would I know? I'm just as irritated as you are. Sayuri clicked her tongue in impatience. It was a surprising habit, but something Naruto found interesting. By the second hour, they were pissed off. Where the hell is this dude? Naruto wondered in thought. Rarely was he this angry at someone, but to be stood up for 2 freaking hours? Sayuri was at her rope's end. You know what, why don't we go out as a team for lunch? Our sensei made us wait, and so we will make him wait, Naruto offered. Sayuri was quick to accept, willing to get the hell out of that classroom as quickly as possible. Sakura, ever the fangirl, followed her idol's decision. The trio left the room and to Naruto's favorite ramen stand, Ichiraku Ramen. Aji-san, the usual please, called Naruto cheerfully as he raised the flaps of the curtain and entered the stand. Ah, Naruto-kun. 1 bowl. Coming right up. Tuchi repeated the order, before signaling to his daughter. What about your 2 friends? What would you like? Sayuri, Sakura? Naruto asked. Sayuri blinked, surprised that he didn't address her as team. Glancing at the menu briefly, she replied, a bowl of miso ramen with a slice of chashu, please. Sakura spoke. I'll have the same as Sayuri-san. Naruto was slightly shocked. Unknowingly, the Uchiha had ordered the same as he did. Looks like they did have similar tastes in ramen after all. After 3 minutes, I am served Team 7. Ita de Kamasu, the 3 chorused, albeit softly in Sayuri's case, and broke their chopsticks. They began digging into their food. This is delicious, Sakura praised cheerfully in stark contrast to her crappy mood in the classroom. I know, right? Naruto asked rhetorically. Thank you. Ayam replied to Sakura's compliment. And who's that, your girlfriend Naruto-kun? Ayam teased in reference to Sayuri, who was silently enjoying her food. At that moment, the two who were mentioned nearly choked on the strands in their mouths. No way! Both denied simultaneously, one blushing and the other sputtering. See, you're so compatible, teased Ayam further. No, seriously, we're not. The two growled out in unison before continuing with their lunch. Is that how you hide your bashfulness? Ayam joked before deciding to stop. It was easy to see why she thought so, though. Sayuri was a pretty teenager, having inherited her mother's beauty. She had two bangs framing her pale-skinned face and a long ponytail. The Uchiha was dressed in a short blue mandarin gown which ran from her shoulders to her lower thighs, as well as a long left sleeve. It hugged her body and accentuated all her curves, which were present even at her current age. There were slits on both sides of the skirt from her hip down to enable mobility, though to preserve modesty, she wore mesh pants which ran to her knees and a black shirt underneath. For unknown reasons, her right arm was bare, not covered by the gown or the shirt. The only part which was covered was her right forearm, which had a black armband. Wrapped around her waist was a black sash which had the Uchiha symbol. A pair of black boots finished her outfit. Boy, did she love black. Must have matched her hair. Naruto, on the other hand, was wearing a black uniform-style jacket with an orange zipper that featured several buttons on the waist and sleeves. This allowed him to fold up the left sleeve and rear coattails, giving him easy access to the pouches on the back of his belt. He wore a red armband with the Uzumaki crest on his left arm. This outfit was the Sandame's gift for his previous birthday. As such, he treasured it, refusing to wear anything else, not like he could, considering the villagers' refusal to sell him garments. If Naruto and Sayuri were to sit together, outsiders would think that they were a couple as their outfits were just very similar in many ways. However, once they looked again, they would notice that they were poles apart in personality. While Naruto was friendly and cheery, Sayuri was permanently scowling, and when she didn't, she smirked, her attitude cold and uncaring. This would have not been the case 5 years ago, but the Uchiha clan massacre had changed her in many ways. She was kind before, but now all she did was glare. It was kind of sad, really, and it was something that Naruto wanted to change. Flashback. Sayuri was out with her mother at the playground in Konoha's park. She had met a new friend at the park. It was a boy named Naruto. Naruto-kun, do you want to build a sandcastle with me? The girl asked. Sure, the boy replied happily, for it was the first time he got to play with a friend. Usually the parent would pull their child away upon finding out. However, Uchiha Mikoto was a compassionate woman and was a friend of Kushina when she was alive. She was sad to see her friend's son all alone, and by a stroke of luck, they met him at the park. Her husband Fugaku would disapprove, but she still let her daughter befriend the Jinchuriki anyway as he wasn't present. Naruto began helping Sayuri build the sandcastle, making it a very elaborate sand construct. When a bit of sand flew away due to a passing wind, the boy pouted as he had to rebuild one of the turrets. The Uchiha girl giggled, finding his expression cute. Sayuri-chan, I'll go get you some drinks. Be back in 5 minutes. Don't misbehave, Mikoto called, getting up from the bench. Sayuri nodded obediently, busy enjoying her time with her new blonde friend. Yada, it's finished, Naruto cried happily, doing a sort of victory dance. The young Uchiha girl burst out in peals of laughter at his antics. Naruto paused, for that laugh was the most melodious sound he had ever heard. He smiled, happy to see his friend so happy. That smile would not last long, for a group of 3 boys came into the playground. Seeing the sandcastle, they ran towards the sandpit and kicked it hard, destroying the children's masterpiece. Sayuri teared up a bit before crying miserably. The leader of the 3 boys sneered in contempt. Crybaby, he taunted. Naruto stood in front of the Uchiha protectively, intent on shielding his new friend from any threat. Team, take that back, he growled furiously. What did you say, Gaki? The leader mocked. I said, take back. Naruto gritted out. By now, Sayuri was crying her heart out, not just for her destroyed work, but for their lives, which were now under threat. Haha, I can crush with you a single fist. What makes you think you can make me take back my words? The leader spoke, before swinging a fist at Naruto. It was a clumsy punch, one that Naruto evaded easily. Weaving under his arm, Naruto slammed his fist into the boy's stomach with all his might. The boy flew back into the arms of his two followers who caught him. Wincing, he cried out in excruciating pain, sure something inside had broken. You're that child. The leader cried out in fear before scrambling away with his two friends. Once they were gone, he turned around to check on Sayuri. Sayuri-chan, it's okay. They're gone now. We can always build it again. Any? Naruto said, hugging her and trying to console the girl. Nodding, she wiped away her tears and managed to smile. Uchihas are strong, and that means no crying, she told herself. But before they could rebuild the sandcastle, Makoto was back with the drinks and had to bring Sayuri home. Reluctantly, the two friends parted ways. To this day, the Uchiha had never forgotten what Naruto had done for her. And unbeknownst to him, she harbored feelings for him but couldn't stop pushing him away to sever these bonds in the hope that when the inevitable occurred, she wouldn't hurt Naruto with her leave. Present. Team 7 finished their lunch and left the stand after paying, then returned to their classroom where they waited for another half hour. Finally, Kakashi arrived. Yo, I'm your sensei dash. Kakashi-sensei, you're late, Sakura screamed. Luckily, the other two saw this coming and plugged their ears beforehand. Kakashi's sweat dropped. I got lost on the road of life. Meet me on the roof in 2 minutes tops. The Jonin then disappeared in the classic Shunshin no Jutsu, body flicker jutsu. Academy rooftop. Naruto was the first to arrive, followed shortly by Sayuri and lastly, Sakura. They all managed to arrive within the time frame, leading to their sensei praising, "Looks like you guys are in decent physical condition. Now let's begin by introducing ourselves." Sakura asked, "Why don't you show us, Kakashi-sensei?" The white-haired man gave an eye smile. That was because the bottom of his face was obscured by a mask, and his headband was slanted to cover his left eye such that only his right eye was visible. Based on his eyebrow and right eye's expression, they could tell that he was smiling, though in what sense they did not know. My name is Hatake Kakashi. I like some things, dislike others, and my hobbies and dreams are none of your business. Team 7's sensei introduced. We don't know anything except your name, Naruto deadpanned. Again, the mysterious man that was their sensei. I smiled. You go first, Pinky, Kakashi urged. Sakura grumbled and started. I'm Haruno Sakura. I like Sayuri-chan, dislike Naruto, perverts and late people. Insert pointed look at Kakashi. My hobbies are playing trivia games and memorizing new material for my studies. My dream is to befriend Sayuri and grow up to be a powerful kunoichi. Blondie, you're next. I'm Uzumaki Naruto. I like my precious people, ramen and training. I dislike traitors, people who take things for granted and people who judge others for something not in their control. My hobbies are training, learning new jutsu and bonding with precious people. My dream is to be the most powerful shinobi to grace the elemental nations and be Hokage. Admirable goal, Kakashi remarked before moving on. Raven, you're next. Sayuri scowled. I'm Uchiha Sayuri. I like nothing and dislike everything, especially my brother. My hobbies are training and my dream is not a dream, but a life goal. To kill Uchiha Itachi and restore the Uchiha clan. While Sakura and Kakashi sweat dropped, Naruto frowned sadly. Sayuri had a sad past and Naruto felt like he was obliged to help her move past it. Unknown to everyone including himself, Naruto's fists were tightly clenched. He only released them when he realized how much he was stressing over the Uchiha. Well, interesting team we have here. Tomorrow we're going to have a survival test which will determine whether you stay a genin or get sent back to the academy. Report to training ground 7 by 7 a.m. and don't eat breakfast or you'll taste it twice, Kakashi announced before disappearing. Awkwardly, the three genin dispersed. Training ground 7 a.m. Sakura and Sayuri arrived and did not eat breakfast as instructed. Naruto, on the other hand, was late. He arrived at 9, much to Sakura's ire. Naruto, you're late. The boy shrugged. I'm not late when Kakashi-sensei is not here yet. Opening a bento, he began savoring breakfast. Kakashi-sensei told us not to eat breakfast, Naruto. Sakura scolded once again. We're having survival training, we'll need energy for this. Trust me, replied Naruto between mouthfuls of rice. Sayuri and Sakura's stomachs began growling in hunger. The two kunoichi blushed and Sayuri looked away. Naruto still took notice and offered his bento to Sayuri. Here, you can have it. Sayuri tried to resist, but her stomach was seemingly stronger than her mind in this case. Blushing, she accepted the offer. Thank you, she muttered. What was that? Naruto replied, not hearing what she said. I said thank you, she yelled out in embarrassment, blushing even more heavily as she cursed herself. God damn it, why is Naruto so nice to me? I've tried to push him away from me with my attitude, but he just keeps coming back. Naruto, you are the sweetest boy I've met, but I'm afraid your kindness was wasted on me. I'm sorry, I'll be gone in due time. Sayuri thought as she ate his bento with his chopsticks. She realized, Sakura, I'm sorry, I didn't have extra. I'll go and get one for you, all right? Naruto said. Sakura sighed. Thank you, Naruto. The blonde disappeared in a burst of speed to the nearest shop. Transforming into someone else, he bought breakfast for Sakura and came back within 2 minutes. Wow, that was fast, Sakura commented. After finishing breakfast, they waited until 10 before Kakashi arrived. With Kakashi, the white-haired Jonin stood up from the memorial stone, where he had been for the past 3 hours. I will honor your legacy, Obito. Who knows, this team might even pass. He disappeared in a leaf shunshin to where Team 7 was waiting. Training Ground 7. Kakashi-sensei, you're late again, Sakura screeched. Said Sensei winced before replying. On the road I saw a black cat and had to take the long way around it just to get here. Well, anyways, I have here with me 2 bells. You have 2 hours to get them from me. If you don't have a bell, you will be disqualified and sent back to the academy. Additionally, you will be tied to those posts and watch as the other 2 eat their lunches. So that's why he didn't want us to eat breakfast. All 3 genin thought simultaneously. Questions? No? Hajime, Kakashi yelled. At once, the genin scattered into the forests. Naruto was analyzing Kakashi's instructions, as was Sayuri. Quickly, both came to the same conclusion. The aim of this test is teamwork. Soon, the 2 found each other. Sayuri - Naruto - both started simultaneously, before pausing. You start first, they followed up at the same time. Naruto sighed. We need to work together to beat Kakashi-sensei. Agreed, Sayuri replied. Ma, what's this, my cute little genin? Kakashi said suddenly, beside them on the tree. Shocked, both leapt out of the tree while tossing a kunai attached to an explosive tag. Kakashi jumped away to safety, avoiding the explosion which wrecked the tree they were previously on. The Jonin chuckled. It appeared that there was a spark between the 2, and it was up to him to ignite the flames of love. Oh, Kami, why do I sound like Guy now? Kakashi thought, amused but then shivered at the thought of his eternal rival. Sayuri and Naruto tumbled onto the grass floor and quickly recovered. We have to find Sakura now, Sayuri said. I got this, Naruto assured and closed his eyes. He felt a small chakra presence. It was the chakra signature of Sakura. That way, let's go. Naruto led her to find their other teammate. Kakashi, I smiled. Interesting. So Naruto's a censor, he thought. My shadow clone got her already, so let's see what they'll come up with. They found her collapsed on the floor and Naruto turned her over, checking her pulse. She's alive. No sign of any physical damage, so it must have been genjutsu. Naruto uttered Kai, release, snapping her out it. Sayuri took the chance and spoke up. Sakura, we need to work together as team to defeat Kakashi. She agreed with her idol and came up with a plan. With Kakashi, what now? Kakashi thought as he saw Naruto approaching him at genin level speed. Just as he neared, the blonde suddenly sped up to low Jonin speed, shocking the Jonin as he blitzed him with a punch. Kakashi clutched his stomach in pain as that blow had been strong, and coupled with the momentum of his speed, he was sure something inside had been damaged. He was never underestimating him again. Naruto swung his next fist. However, this time Kakashi was on guard and knocked his arm away. Next, he executed a leg sweep which Naruto flipped over. The blonde then approached from behind and sent a punch to his back. He wasn't a jonin for nothing, however, and spun around rapidly, snapping his leg out in a roundhouse kick. His foot sent Naruto crashing into the floor. That is, until Naruto dispelled in a burst of smoke. Kage Bunshin? Kakashi thought in suppressed shock. How was he able to perform the shadow clone jutsu? The ground erupted, giving way to Naruto, who emerged from it with an outstretched arm. Kakashi managed to avoid it in time by flipping away. Great tactics, but still not enough to beat me, Naruto, Kakashi commented. Who said I was doing it alone? Naruto asked with a smirk. Katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu, Fire Style, Fireball Jutsu. Sayuri called from behind Kakashi. A huge orb of flames rolled out of her mouth and flew towards the jonin. Turning round and seeing the hurtling fireball, Kakashi jumped out of the way, exploiting the jutsu's weakness linear path of movement. However, his eyes widened when he realized Naruto was still in the path of the fireball. The flames seemingly engulfed the blonde, incinerating the boy. Kakashi's eyes widened and he quickly went to check on his student. Where Naruto once stood was a charred body. He bent down to check on the corpse. Without warning, he was punched in the head by Sakura. He glared at her. This is not a game, Sakura. Your teammate is dead. Could you at least show concern? Sakura laughed and somersaulted into the air, before a burst of smoke revealed her to actually be Naruto. Nice to know you care, but did you think I was actually that easy to kill? The corpse dispersed in a plume of smoke as well, revealing itself to be a transformed shadow clone. So, Naruto had outmaneuvered the fireball with pure speed and left behind a transformed shadow clone while transforming himself? Kakashi scowled. If he wasn't so pissed off, he would have been impressed. Though he did it to pass the test, Naruto may have crossed the line in playing dirty for this one. After losing a teammate, Kakashi wasn't keen on losing a genin under his charge. Naruto watched as Kakashi disappeared in a shunshin, reappearing behind the startled Sayuri. He drew a kunai and placed it to her neck. How would like it if your own teammate's life was in danger? Kakashi asked coldly. How would you like it if they die? With the last word, he pulled the kunai along Sayuri's jugular. Naruto's eyes widened in shock. Sayuri-chan, the Uzumaki screamed. Blood sprayed across the floor as his Uchiha teammate dropped to the floor, dead before she even hit it. Snap out of it, Naruto. It's a genjutsu. Kurama roared from within the mindscape, before deciding to take it into his own hands by flaring his chakra to disrupt Naruto's chakra flow. The genjutsu was released, causing Naruto to see the reality before him. Kakashi was dashing towards him and Sayuri was in front of him, protecting him from any possible attack. He couldn't tell that Sayuri was flushing badly as he had screamed out her name so passionately with the chan suffix, which in itself was something he had not done since childhood. She could tell, though, that Kakashi had cast some form of genjutsu, and by Naruto's reaction, it probably involved her. In a flash of yellow, however, Kakashi was knocked out of the way by… Was that a shikujo? Ring staff? Interestingly enough, it was indeed a shikujo and wielded by Naruto, whose body was covered in what appeared to be a chakra cloak. Naruto growled. I'm sorry for faking my death, Kakashi-sensei, but you really shouldn't have done that. Be it genjutsu or reality. And oh, one touches my precious people and gets away with it. Sayuri fought the urge to blush again. Damn it, what was wrong with her? Just because Naruto considered her as one of his precious people. No, she had a task to fulfill and she would not allow Naruto to be caught up in it. Kakashi had the wind knocked out of him by that weird weapon. It was an ancient and traditional monk's staff, a shikujo. But Naruto had used it in combat successfully, so it did have some merit. He watched in slight surprise as the shikujo split into two black orbs which returned to Naruto's back, rejoining the other two which were orbiting. Let's put an end to this. Sakura, Naruto called. From a nearby tree, for kunai were thrown and landed in a square formation around Kakashi, who was attempting to recover and get away. Ishi Tojin, string light formation, Naruto called. Lines of Fuinjutsu script wrapped around all four kunai, creating a barrier which prevented Kakashi from escaping. Fubaku Hajin, sealed bomb square release. Naruto activated further, causing Fuinjutsu script to run in the corners, the same as those on explosive tags. Kakashi-sensei, I wouldn't suggest moving unless you want your head and body to be in separate places, said Jonin sighed, giving up. He was bested by 3 genin, and who knew Naruto had so much in him? He was really pushing it with that genjutsu. Meanwhile, in Naruto's thoughts, he was wondering, did Sayuri really mean that much to him? After all, she kept on insulting and looking down on him. Perhaps even that had grown on him. Or was it something else, something in the past? Kakashi gave up the bells, having no way to escape the trap without being blown up. Once Naruto released the technique, he stood up and dusted himself off. Dainanahin, Team 7, you pass, he said with an eye smile. The freshly graduated genin were in no mood to cheer and simply responded with an unenthusiastic, yay. You guys should be proud to be in Team 7. You're only the 5th Team 7 since Konoha's founding, said Kakashi. Really now? Who were the previous teams then? Sakura asked. Only the best ever made it to Team 7, for all its senseis had very high standards. The first Team 7 ever was led by Senju Tobarama, the Nidame, who then had 3 genin under his charge, Sarutobi Hiruzen, the Sandame, Udatane Koharu and Mitokado Hamura, both of whom are currently elders in the council. The second Team 7 was led by the Sandame, and he had 3 genin under his charge then. They are currently the legendary Sannin of Konoha, Jiraiya, the Gama Sannin, Toad Sage, Tsunade, the Namakuji Haime, Slug Princess, and Orochimaru, who is now a Nuke Nin, missing Nin. The third Team 7 was led by Jiraiya, and there was only one famous student in this case, Namikaze Minato, the Yandame. The Yandame went on to lead Team 7, and under him were No-Era Rin, Uchiha Obito, and myself, Hatake Kakashi of the Sharingan. Sayuri's eyes widened. How do you possess the Sharingan? Kakashi sighed. It's a long and tragic story, but in the end my teammate gifted me with his Sharingan just before he died. So that's what's under his headband, thought Naruto. And so, you're all now the 5th Team 7, and who knows? Maybe one day you'll grow up to be powerful shinobi, Kakashi said. But as with all powerful shinobi, they start small. Tomorrow is your first mission. Report directly to the Ninmu Yukitsuke mission assignment desk. In the academy at 6-. You mean 9? Naruto deadpanned. Kakashi's sweat dropped in response. At 6 in the morning. Well, Johnny, he means 9. Hokage's office. Kakashi arrived along with the 2 other Jonin senseis, Asuma and Kurenai. So, what are the results of test? Hiruzen asked while smoking a pipe. Asuma replied, Team 10 pass. Kurenai spoke, Team 8 passed my test. Kakashi I smiled and declared, Team 7 pass. The other 2 Jonin gasped in surprise, for Kakashi had never passed a team in all his years as a Jonin. Kakashi, could you explain why they passed? The Sandame inquired. Well, the moment it begun, Naruto and Sayuri figured out the test's objective and found each other. After I ambushed them, they blew up the tree we were on with an explosive tag and ran away. Naruto, with his sensory skills, located Sakura, who I had already placed a genjutsu on with my shadow clone. They came together after releasing the illusion and presumably came up with a plan. Naruto approached me at get this low Jonin speed. We had a brief taijutsu scuffle before he burst into smoke, revealing himself to be a shadow clone. The original shot from the ground and attempted a punch, but I evaded it. Suddenly, Sayuri launched a fireball at me from behind, and I leapt out of the way, but Naruto was caught in it. Everyone in the room was glued to his next few words. He secretly outmaneuvered it with pure speed and replaced himself with a transformed shadow clone as a burned corpse. When I went to check on him, Sakura ambushed me and later revealed that she was a transformed Naruto. I cast a genjutsu on him, Kakashi said, and at this point left out the details of what illusion he actually cast, and dashed towards him. However, Sayuri came to his defense. Apparently, he snapped out of it in time and knocked me away with a shakujo. It caused so much pain that the real Sakura was able to throw 4 kunais around me in a square. With this, Naruto activated a barrier and layered it with an explosive trap. As such, I had to give up or risk getting blown up. Interesting, the elder Sarutobi thought. The other two jonins in the room were shocked to the core. How did Naruto possess such speed and power, as well as Fuinjutsu? That was an art completely out of a genin's league. Then again, he was an Uzumaki, whose clan was renowned for its Fuinjutsu prowess. Still, it did not explain the speed or power. Well, I expect that tomorrow, you all will be assigning D ranks for your respective teams? The three senseis smirked. It would be fun to see their reaction. With Naruto, when he returned home, Kurama spoke up from the mindscape. Since you're Asura-san's transmigrant, I'll try to be nice to you. Try. Naruto replied awkwardly, thanks, I guess? I'll always be on standby, so if you get caught in a genjutsu like just now, I'll break it for you. Also, if you ever run out of chakra, I'll refill it with my own. Thirdly, I'll gift you with one of my sensory skills, the ability to detect negative emotions. Kurama explained with reluctance. He rarely felt nice enough to do this for his Jinchuriki, but this was a special case, as Naruto was his brother's incarnate. Yes, the Rakuto Sannin had used on Mayatan to split up the original tailed beast, the Jubi, 10 tails, which was also known as the Shinju, divine tree, into the current 9-tailed beasts of today. As such, they considered him to be a father, so being his son, Asura was treated as a brother. Last thing, if one day we have enough mutual trust and you free me from the seal, I will allow you to use Bijou Moto, tailed beast mode, and summon me as an avatar, the Kyuubi finished. Deal! Naruto agreed happily, and with sheer willpower, changed the entire waterlogged basement into a huge grassland where a mountain lay in the middle of lush forests. The cage was transformed into a huge cave within the mountain, and the bars morphed into a curtain of water cascading from the summit as a waterfall down to a huge lake where Naruto was currently standing on. Kurama grinned, though with his teeth, it may have looked malicious. He was already liking this kid. Mission assignment desk, 9 a.m. The three genin arrived at the desk, just as their sensei walked up to the door. Ohio, Kakashi called sheepishly. Naruto said, see, I told you he meant 9. The jonin cleared his throat to save himself from further embarrassment. Right? Team 7, here for a D rank. The chunin at the desk rifled through a cabinet and found a scroll labeled D rank. Opening it, he announced in monotone, Madame Shirjimi, the fire daimyo's wife, has lost her cat Tora yet again. Your mission is to find it and return it by 12 today. All three genin sweat dropped, having expected a mission of higher intensity befitting their skill set. Well, now there's no time to waste. Ikuzo, Kakashi ordered. The three genin set off to begin this crazy enterprise of D ranks.